If you get into mythology, you'll find that most of the women characters are strong, whether it's Draupadi or anybody else. Ramayana happened for a reason. Ram had to come. He had to kill Ravan. A woman can be doing nothing, not going out, not working, not earning a penny, yet be a very strong woman. People are confused because they feel a sense of anxiety. Anxiety is because there are too many things happening around them and they want too many things and they can't obviously have everything. So there is this thing of, missing out on stuff and not having enough. And so there is this huge rat race that they're part of that gives them a lot of.
Hi, Sunita ji. Very warm welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sanya. Namaste.
Namaste. Sunita ji, I welcome you to the podcast channel from what I like to call as Unbecoming with Sanya. And the conversation we are having today is Heart Talks. Here, I would like to introduce you. You and me go long back, but we actually spoke recently. And we spoke at length, and where you also mentioned that you never have such, so much time, but somehow I would say universe allowed us to come together, and we spoke without hinges. So, and from that time, I realized that you're really busy because you never come online. So it's true. But now again, we are here today. So, Sunita ji, your work is exploring mythology, storytelling, spirituality, and personal transformation. You've spent decades as a writer, as an editor, making ancient wisdom, relive to this modern life. You are a very soft-spoken, humble, very kind of a personality. Your whole personality is extremely like a feminine woman. But I think you're like strong as very, very, like a rock. You've got this combination in you, and which is absolutely amazing. So I welcome you, Sunita ji, to this podcast. When people hear your impressive bio, they'll see the author, the mythologist, and a storyteller. But my question to you is, who is the real Sunita beyond these labels?
Thank you for having me, Sanya, first of all. And yes, we did have a wonderful conversation some time back. And it's true. I mean, it doesn't really happen like that. I don't have that kind of time, to be talking to somebody for so long. I just don't have that kind of time. I don't know what happened, how the whole thing, happened. Somebody did something from somewhere, and well, we chatted and how we did. Now, coming to your question, you see, when you talk about the femininity and all, I firmly believe that all of us have both the male and the female, aspect in us. I mean, Ardhanarishwar, for instance, the Shiva Shakti principle. I'm from Uttarakhand. So, essentially, I would say I'm a follower of Shiva because that's, the God whom I have always looked up to from childhood. And so it's like the Ardhanarishwar thing, the male aspect as and when required, the female aspect as and when required. And during my life, the long, so many decades of working, and as you said, wearing so many hats, I had to look after myself because, when you're out there and you're competing, it's a very competitive world and it's a man's world. So you have to be very strong. You have to fight for everything. As a woman, you have to actually put in a lot of hard work to prove yourself. Somehow, this is how the world is. So obviously, I needed the Shiva principle also within me, apart from the Shakti principle. So I guess I've utilized both. So that is, I would say, the real me. I would say that it's a balance. I'm not, very harsh because I've run companies and I've been a very strict boss. I'm very particular. I always demanded efficiency. At the same time, there is this the female side also, which balances out, and I think that is very important. So I think this is who I am. A combination, a balance.
Absolutely.
And as it required. Yeah.
Absolutely. And what is something that you had to, did you have to give up, or did you have to somehow unlearn to become the woman that you are today?
You see, I don't think these terms, unlearning and all, these are new because during our time, we never thought of unlearning anything. For us, living was itself an experience. Life was an experience, and life was the biggest teacher. So whatever I learned from circumstances, from people around me, if I'm thrown into a situation, there is a survival instinct that comes, and that happens with all human beings, except that we suppress it, we repress it. We don't really accept that, and we try to look for help. We try to look towards people to help us, to pull us out of any situation. My case, because when I was very young, when I was a child, and I was 7 years old when my brother was born, and then we had my grandmother died, my grandfather moved in with us, and so did my uncles, and there was a lot of kind of chaos in the house, and so I was left on my own, and I think that was a time where because I was expected to be handling myself, so that expectation of my parents and people around me, you know, brought forth that survival instinct, and I actually managed. So I think that was a time where I learned how to manage everything, whether my homework, even, to ironing my clothes, polishing my shoes, everything, going to the market and so on. And I was kind of just 7.5, 8. So you can imagine at that age. So now these things again come from circumstances. When you realize that there is nobody to hold your hand, then what do? Then you don't look for anybody to hold your hand. Then you manage yourself. So that is how I have been. So that kind of became my built-in nature. And I never looked for help. I never did. I managed to find that strength within me, and I continue to find the strength within me. And I think that is very important, and this is what I've taught my daughters too, that your strength is within you. Do not look for it outside. You can pull it up from here. You have it within you. You don't need anyone to give you that strength. So that is something which I learned very early, and I used it. And I think that was a very good thing that happened. And that has helped me all through so many decades in surviving in the industry, being the only, woman publisher. When I used to go to Frankfurt Book Fair way back in the 80s, India never sent, from India, there were no women publishers there. I was the only one from India, and the entire industry is a male industry, at least in India. At that time it was. Now you see women are entering the publishing industry as publishers. Otherwise, women used to be editors. That's about all. So, that time facing Frankfurt, the people, and traveling alone, living alone, all that stuff, I managed because I never had any option. You see, option is when there is somebody who's going to hold your hand. That is an option. So I learned very early in life that there are no options. And since I had no options, I managed when I learned as I went along the way. I established my own company. I did it on my own. There was no help. I have no background. There's nobody in our family who ever had a business. But I, established my company. I ran it. I ran it for 16 years. So all that happened because, first of all, I don't follow any path which is given to us by society. I'm in that sense a rebel. I always feel that if somebody says, women can't do it, I just laugh because I feel that everybody can do it. Like everybody is human. So if you're human, you can do it. It doesn't really matter whether you're a male or a female. So that rebellion is there within me that, I take on challenges. All the books that I write, they're all, challenges that I've taken on. I can never write on the same thing, for a very long period of time because I would get bored. I could feel that there's a plateau that I've reached. I need a challenge. So I'll pick up a difficult subject to write on, which is going to really challenge me. And then I feel very happy. So that's a high I get. So I keep telling people I'm kind of, I'm addicted to writing. The more challenging it is, the better it is for me.
That's really good addiction, I can tell you. Was there a belief or identity you carried for years that eventually no longer serves you?
Let's see. I don't think I carried any. You see, I was fond of writing. So first of all, I never thought myself as a writer, though I was fond of writing. But in our time, it was not really a profession. I was a science student, so for us it was either be a doctor or an engineer. So it was like kind of that's how the society would think. Now we have like a zillion career paths, but we did have. But I took up nutrition and I followed science, and I was writing, but I never thought of myself as a writer till at the age of 20 when I, you know, started a column when my first column appeared and I got paid for it. That was the commercial writing that happened. That's when I realized that, yes, writing can be a profession because I was earning out of it. So that's how, for me to even accept myself as a writer came pretty late because it was so easy. Writing was easy for me. I was doing a good job. I was getting paid. I was, you know, writing columns. I was writing articles. I started writing books. I mean, so when things come so easy, at times you don't realize, the value. It was so later on when I realized, when I started writing books and I was called by publishers to write for them and my books were doing well, that's when I realized that, oh yeah, I'm a writer. It's a profession. So that label itself, that took up pretty late in life.
Yeah.
So otherwise, I don't think I carried any identities within me. I was just fond of reading, writing, and I was, extremely independent in my head. And as I said, rebel in my heart. And
But do you see, Sunita ji, do you see like any, because you've come a long way. Your life, has it taught you something which you felt that, and this was something I could have done, in a different way, maybe. Today when you look back, is there anything you would say that, okay, maybe I would have done it
differently?
Yeah.
No, interestingly, I've always felt that, whatever I wanted, I always received. So I've always been grateful for the blessings that I kind of bumped into mentors on the way who would say that, oh, you write so well, you've written these articles so well. Why don't you go and interview Kushwant Singh, for instance? And then they would fix up a time for me, and I would be gently nudged into doing interviews of celebs, and I would then realize that, oh, I can do this also. So I guess I have always felt that I was, maybe because I did not have that kind of ambition in my head, and I was not really, I was not full of desires or ambitions in that sense that, I would feel that I had to achieve that. No, it was for me, they were all small, simple goals, like, writing a book was a goal. Once I did that, it's okay. Then I move on. I've done it, no? So I move on. Working with a certain publisher, there was an interest. And then I would somehow, the publisher would get in touch with me and I would write for them. Things were happening smoothly and I would move on. So I would never, hang on to anything. Like I would not hang on to the success of any of my books, because I've always felt that when you hang on to your successes or even your failures, they limit you, they pull you down. So I never hang on to either my success or my failure. And in fact, I wouldn't even say there have been any failures. I would say that even if there is an idea in my head and, I want to write on, what I do is I just create a document and it's there on my laptop. And years later, some publisher, would say that, we want you to write a book on that particular topic. And, it's kind of literally like a miracle that, oh, yes, I've already worked on it, And then I'll pull out that document and I'll start, I'll resume work. So these things, so many of such miracles, as you would call them, have happened in my life that there are no regrets, there are no complaints. I'm pretty zen. I'm very happy.
That's cool. That's really nice. I mean, many people probably are going through, young or old or experienced or unexperienced. A lot of people are going through a lot of anxieties. It's not really, people are not able to figuring out what is happening around them. And they have a lot of ambitions, they have a lot of dreams and desires, a lot of things are being fulfilled. But as you're rightly saying, that once you cling on to anything, even successes, that limit you. So, and then there's
Yes.
also another thing, as you're saying, that, a lot of people ignore a lot of things which are happening good around them, but they probably cling on to things which are not happening the way they want it. So it's also pretty, you know, um, thought on how I see success to be. My success is my kind. Nobody is really understanding what real success is. That itself is an issue these days.
Yes, true. And I, follow the principle of Gita. I follow, uh, you know, I've been following it since forever. That whatever I do, I never think of it that I have to, if I'm writing on a subject, I have never ever thought that this book should be published by this publisher, or, I am writing because I want to write on a particular subject. For instance, I wrote about Yashodra's story, Buddha's wife, Yashodhara. And I really wanted to write that story. It came to me and I wanted to write and I wrote. And while I was writing, I shared it with the publisher that I was already writing for. And it was not that I wanted them to publish. I just wanted to have an opinion because it was for the first time I was attempting historical fiction. And they loved it. And they say, when you finish this book, please send it to us. So that, it was like it's such smooth sailing. The book was accepted and got published. So it's like this, that if you do not have any expectations, if you're working, with your heart and soul, as we say, and you do not have any expectations that, I have to achieve this thing, and, there is no label out there for you. If there are no expectations, you don't feel hurt.
Right.
Because
Right.
the energy is not wasted. You see, if I take up a topic and start writing, and my expectation of reaching a particular point, would be distracting me, and that distraction is not required. I want to focus on my work. I totally focus on my work, and that is how I do it. And I know I'm giving it my heart and soul. It's going to touch other hearts and souls.
Absolutely.
That's how it works. And that's how it's always worked.
Fantastic. I mean, it sounds really wise. When you look back today, if you think any of your chapters of your life have really transformed you.
You see, the first one, as I told you, that I was very young when, our family suddenly enlarged, and then I was attention, there was hardly any attention on me. That was one time. But I was too young, I guess, to feel that. That is retrospectively, I feel that it would have impacted me, in my thinking. But when you say that, going back and to, there would be chapters. I would say that when I, began to write, but I started writing because I was counseling a patient. I was giving a diet advice, and the patient told me that I should write. And when I actually began writing, the kind of energy that suddenly surged within me was something which was absolutely mind blowing. It was, uh, I can't even describe it, because it was not just to see your name in a newspaper or in a magazine, your byline. It was not that. It was the fact that I write something and there's so many people reading it, because I would get responses, I would get, mails, letters that time. And so to imagine, to understand that the power of writing, the power of the word is so much, it was it made me realize the importance of writing, not just writing, but the responsibility that comes along with it. It's a very responsible thing to do. Whatever you're serving out when you're writing, whatever words you're putting out there, you have to be extremely responsible about it. You just can't write whatever. So that was a very, very important lesson. And till date, whatever I write, there's a lot of research I do. To write one book, I would be reading so many. To just write some words, I'll be reading like maybe tens of thousands of words just to write one paragraph. That's the kind of, research I put in, because that is something which impacted me a lot. That, well, this is what it is. I write a column, it's out there in the newspaper, people are reading it, responding it. Oh my God, this is, I have to be right. I can't mislead. So that
Exactly.
was something, at that age of 2021, it was very powerful learning for me. Yeah. So that was one. The other one, I would say, a life changing thing was that when I was heading a publishing house, I was very young. I was 28, 29. That was very young to be a CEO of a big mega textbook publisher, number two in the country. Now, at that point of time, though I had experience of working with the Times of India group and everything, but the environment where I was, where most of the people were older to me and most of them were men, and how they rejected me. And I'm the CEO, I'm heading the whole thing, but they rejected me because they felt that I was an imposition on them, and they felt that, I knew nothing because I was young, I knew nothing because I was a woman. And, and they just, they decided to go on strike right when I was unwell, I was in bed. So I had to mobilize my entire energy, all my resources, my friends, in Times of India group, everywhere, and get them to wrap up the work that my staff was supposed to be doing. I farmed it all out, and I got it done in record time and got the books out. And that was something, I don't know from where I got that energy. Though I was bedridden, I was actually quite sick. I'd had a very serious surgery, and I was supposed to be in bed. And I did all this while I was at home. And I don't know from where that strength, that energy came. And that's why I say that it's a blessing, and I'm forever grateful. And that my friends were there, not from my office, not my staff, friends outside who had worked with me earlier. And they helped me out, and we put the books out. So that was something where I realized that, you might be on the top, you might be the boss, you might be the best in your work, you might be whatever. But at the end of the day, you have to, you cannot depend on, people that you think are dependable. I mean, that thing can be taken away from you any day. So you have to have your plan B always. And also, you have to be extremely out there. You cannot just be, laid back and feel, you can't be complacent at all. You can't afford to be. No. Because it's as though people are waiting to pull the rug from under your feet. It's literally like that. So that made me so alert to everything. So that was a huge, time. I mean, that time was extremely impactful because I became super alert.
Yeah. I mean,
these kind of things, when you're hands-on, involved in these kind of situations, you have not learned it from anywhere. There's no experience. It's purely, as I say, survival instinct, that comes out, that helps you. And these are the times, these survival instincts have actually surfaced.
I want to go into the woman power and identity. Your work often revisits characters who have been overlooked or misunderstood. Which a feminine figure from mythology do you believe deserves a completely new narrative? Because I wanted to go into this thing about, because you've been also, as you said yourself, you were writing about Buddha's wife. I mean, you have been writing some kind of women characters. And so my questions are basically like, what can a modern woman learn from Draupadi?
You see, this is a very, I would say, a typical question because, first of all, I have always felt that women are very powerful. I've never ever felt that, as people would say, the woman is a weaker sex. No, I've never felt like that. I mean, I've always felt that we have far more resilience than, men. And if you get into mythology, you'll find that most of the women characters are strong, whether it's Draupadi or anybody else. So Draupadi, for instance, if you see her, where she came from and how strong she was, daughter of Drupad, and and then she gets married And then suddenly she realizes that instead of one handsome guy that she thought she was marrying, she's got these four other husbands on the side. So, there were lots of things that she took in her stride, and she made rules as she went along the way. And she accepted all that, and she made rules that, okay, I'm going to spend 1 year with one guy, like five husbands. So all those rules were made. And if you see, why is it that we don't hear about any other wives of these Pandavas? We never do. And they had other wives too. Arjun would go out, and then he would conquer a kingdom, and he would bring back, he would get married to the princess, and though they wouldn't come, but most of them didn't come with him, and they would be in their own kingdoms. But he had other wives. We don't get to hear about them. Why? Because Draupadi was the, central figure in that family. And also, it's said, it's a very popular understanding that people kind of tend to blame the war of Mahabharata and Draupadi. And they say that, it was because she made fun of Duryodhan that Duryodhan got angry, and he decided to, take revenge. And, that's, when they're living in their, in the beautiful palace with all kinds of, glass and crystal and everything. It was a beautiful place. And there Duryodhan slips, and he mistakes water for glass and glass for water, and all that kind of stuff happens. And Draupadi apparently laughs at him, makes fun of him. And this is what the popular belief, that Duryodhan gets, his ego is obviously hurt, and he says that now I have to take revenge, and I have to kind of. Then he doesn't listen to any kind of logic, and that's the seed of a so-called war that is sown, and this is what is said about Draupadi. But I feel that you can't just blame one person for a war. There are plenty of things, and all these things, the epics that you read, the stories that are being told, there is always a reason for them to be there, because they're supposed to be teaching us so many things. All these stories, the mythology is there to teach us how to handle our lives, how to handle relationships, governance, how to rule a kingdom. There's so many of these things, even how to fight a war. But the strategies, Krishna, for instance, if you read about Krishna's life, he was such a phenomenal strategist. His brain would create strategies from nothing. So these stories were written because they were supposed to be teaching us how to lead our lives. So that is how these stories were created, and everything always had a reason. So we can't say that one character is better or stronger, and this one is weaker. No, every character has a backstory, and every character has an important role to play in the story, whether it's Draupadi or anybody else.
Very true. My thing is that, for example, Sita, we call it as a lady of sacrifice. So what do we miss when we reduce or we label these women to symbol of sacrifice? Do you think in this modern world, is it relevant?
You see, again, whose perception is it? It's like, when you read a story, you make a perception. That's your perception. You read, you understand something, and when you analyze it in your head, the analysis is done keeping in mind your background. Like if you are reading, if both of us we read the same story, we'll have different analysis for the same story, because you have a certain background, I have a certain background. So our thoughts are guided, molded by our background, from our wherever we've come from, whether you can say family or education or books that we've read or lives that we've led. So it's everybody has a separate, different perception. Now, perception of Sita that has been spread, I would say, is a male perception, where again, as I say, that everything happens for a reason. Ramayana happened for a reason. Ram had to come. He had to kill Ravan. So things were, created in a way that that entire journey was taken and the path was followed because he had to do that. That's why he was born. Now, as far as Sita's sacrifice is concerned, I don't know what sacrifice you're talking about. Don't you remember the last scene when she says that she leaves her sons when she brings the sons to meet Ram, and then she just goes. She says, "I've done my work here," and then she calls out to her mother, Mother Earth, and the earth splits and she goes. So she did not go back to Ram just because he said, "Okay, now come," like everything is great. So what are we talking about? No, she was a strong woman, you know. And I would also say that the very fact that she went with him, you know, into the forest, the vanvas that Ram followed. She was not forced to do that. Who asked her? She was not told by her parents or her in-laws that no, you have to go with your husband. No. So she had agency. She did it on her own will. She said, "I'll go with you." So how are we saying that she was pressured or she did sacrifice? No, just because she was not fighting like a warrior woman doesn't mean that she was just sacrificing herself. It's like people have a tendency to believe that if a person's if there is a lady who's a homemaker as we call them now, and if she's not kind of going out and working to earn something ostensibly, that is, then people will say, "Oh, she's such a nice person," and then they talk about sacrifices. Why are we seeing women with this kind of lens? No. A woman can be doing nothing, not going out, not working, not earning a penny, yet be a very strong woman. Strength is within. It's nothing to do with anything outside.
I'm with you. Ma'am, one thing I want to, Sunita ji, do you think women today are experiencing an identity crisis before tradition and freedom?
Oh, yes. They have been feeling this identity crisis for a long time now. Because the fact is that the entire, if you see whether it's history, mythology, everything has been written by men. So there is this thing, there is this attitude of showing women in that light. But if you actually start, that's the reason I'm so interested in mythology, because the more I read, the deeper I dig, I find women to be so powerful at all times in mythology. It's just that the stories that are brought forward for us to read show that the woman is crying and falling at so and so's feet and doing all that kind of stuff, supplicating and all that. No, this is kind of selectively misguiding people. So women obviously have been undergoing a lot of identity crisis, because for the longest time they were not really taken seriously enough to be given the kind of education that they should have. So education was a huge thing, and it still is in many parts of the world. And you find that somehow importance is not enough importance is given to educating a girl child as it is given to a boy child. And even if say a girl is given the education that she wants, first of all, there are a whole lot of societal structures of what kind of education a girl should have, and if it is medicine, what kind of college, whether she can get out to another city, to another country. There are so many, barriers, whereas not a single thought like this comes for a male child. For a girl child, there are like a list of questions that whether she should be sent here, whether she should study this subject. In medicine, she should take in the lighter one. She should become a pathologist, because then she'll be stuck in the laboratory, That is better rather than becoming a surgeon, because that's a high octane job.
Yeah.
It's been going on for a long time.
Very true. And what does authentic feminine power looks like to you?
Authentic feminine power is a very, you see, Uh, a female is powerful because she has capacity to give birth to another life. And that is something, whether or not we have children, whether or not we want to have children, the very fact that a woman has the capacity, the power, she is the vessel to give birth to another life is something every woman should understand, take seriously, and be respectful of that power, because that is something which is very, very important for us to understand. Now, and that is what actually, that extra power that we have over men is what makes us so resilient in terms of handling the crisis, multitasking, handling so many, stresses and strains of life, and whether it's physical, mental, emotion, we are able to handle because we have that strength in us. We are the life givers. We have the capacity. So this is something. This is the most powerful aspect of femininity. And the
Absolutely.
fact that if you see the archetype of, say, Devi, the goddess, Shakti, it's so beautiful because, when you read about her, and that is why mythology, is something which I think people should read about because they tell you these stories to tell you what you have within you and how a woman can be a mother, that's one aspect to, and she can be a warrior when she has to fight evil around her, whether it's within family or a work situation or in the world as such, how she can change. She can actually change. She has that kind of power.
Exactly.
So
Way true.
all that, once you read these stories, you realize your own power. And
Absolutely.
being feminine, I think it's a huge blessing. It's a
So,
huge blessing.
for me to ask you this question is becomes really, really, valid. That what has your own journey with feminine power been like?
You see, at every step, I have seen and I have understood and I have experienced and I have used also the power that a woman has, whether to get a job done and how to present yourself, you know, to who, like, it's important to understand that if you're meeting somebody like from the country, then how you show respect to them, how do you dress accordingly, there's a whole lot that goes into being a woman. It's not just power dressing of wearing a certain kind of clothes. They have to be appropriate to the, you can say the occasion and to the person. Because you are kind of projecting. We are always projecting. And a woman can project herself to be a powerful woman, a person in control, as well as a person who's very needy. So, we can play so many roles. So, as long as we understand that we can play these roles, we can. And if need be, we do. And so, at every step, I have seen that. I have seen that in action because there are times when I have realized that, being a woman, I'll be able to get through this situation. I'll be able to, say, get a crack at a particular meeting or meet a person or get into a particular organization. So there are these things that you get to know. And the thing is that you have to use them intelligently, not misuse them. So that is something, as I said, no, I became so alert after that, yes, in
Exactly.
my company, that I became extremely alert and sensitive to everybody around me because that incident taught me that, you know, I have to look after myself and I have to find ways and means to get things done. And I cannot be depending blindly on anybody at all. So I have to keep reinventing myself, depending on the situation, depending on the demand of the situation. We have to keep reinventing ourselves. There's no point of time that I can just sit back and say, okay, now it's all done. Now I can, be comfortable. No. The moment we get into our comfort zone, we stagnate and then we start losing our strength. So we have to
Right.
keep coming out of our comfort zone. So that is something you learn over the years, I mean, over decades. This is a learning that you get from
Yes.
life.
Sunita ji, many people today are spiritually aware, I would say, but at the same time, very exhausted. So they are reading books, your book specifically, hopefully, attending retreats, consuming endless content, yet they feel disconnected. Why do you think this is?
Tell me one thing. If you cannot be disconnected if you want to connect. So in order to want to connect, you have to know what you actually want to do and why you want to connect. Where is the gap? Because what happens is people are confused because they feel a sense of anxiety. Anxiety is because there are too many things happening around them and they want too many things and they can't obviously have everything. So there is this thing of, missing out on stuff and not having enough. And so there is this huge rat race that they're part of that gives them a lot of anxiety. And since they are not pausing to even think that what is the cause of my anxiety. Everybody has a different cause. It's not that if I'm having anxiety, my cause would be very different from your anxiety or somebody else's. Everybody would have a different cause. So people are not wanting to pause and introspect and ask that what am I anxious about? Where am I running to? What do I want? Because the day they are able to pause and ask this question, then they will go to the right person. It's like, when you are sick, don't you go to a specialist? Because, if you go to a GP, that person is also going to ask you like 20 questions and refer you to a specialist, right? But here in India, for instance, we already know that, okay, if I have a fracture, I'm going to go to an ortho guy, right? So this is something like this. So unless and until you know what exactly you want, how will you go to the right person or the right book? So the whole thing is, increasing the chaos. The kind of content we see that is happening all over is adding to the chaos because the mind is already confused. There's much too much to, take, absorb, assimilate, to use. And then there's continuous flow. And that's a lot of contradictory flow because, a whole lot of things are contradictory also. So you don't know whom to believe. So the first thing is to just pause. Pause for a moment. Ask yourself, what is happening here? What is making me anxious? What do I want? Once you understand that, then you try to find that.
I'm with you.
Otherwise, this is kind of, and what happens is if adults are like this, the environment becomes like that, the children grow up in that environment, they're further confused because they are too young to understand much. So when they go out, the peer group they see, which is again a confusing lot. So what we are doing is we are just adding on to the confusion at every step, with every breath. Literally, we are doing that because
So
we're
in
not
this,
stopping at all,
yeah,
not pausing.
in this, if I pause and I ask you this question, because I don't know if that's true. You can always correct me. Do you think that the wisdom, that can wisdom become another ego identity? There's so much of information, so much of things happening. People think they
That
know
is,
it.
but you said that information, knowledge, and wisdom, they're two different things. It is knowledge, information that creates ego because you feel that you have knowledge. Wisdom is nothing to do with knowledge, it's to know how to use that. Wisdom doesn't come from reading books, you know. Wisdom is something native, it is within us, it is gifted to us, it's we have it within us. And that is what Krishna in Gita is constantly saying, that you have to understand your own wisdom. It is within you. Intellect is here, it's within you. That's what Buddha says also. That, whatever you do, whatever, if you're listening to me, it's fine. But do not follow me blindly. First go and check out what I'm saying and then follow. So this is wisdom. Wisdom is that whatever you read, whatever information you get, understand it, use it, and see if it's for you or not. Maybe it's not for you. Just because somebody says that you have to eat flax seeds in a certain way, everybody would start eating flax seeds. How is it making sense? You see, if you read Ayurveda, for instance, it'll tell you that every body is different, and every person has different needs. So something that's going to suit me will not suit you. Isn't there a saying in English that it's like it's something to do with one man's food can be another's poison, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So
I'm with you.
this is lack of wisdom. So wisdom cannot create ego, because wisdom, if a person has wisdom, there would be no ego. Ego is the first thing to go when the wisdom comes into your system. Ego is the first thing that gets out. Ego is only to do with knowledge, that I have read so many books.
I'm with you. How do we distinguish a genuine spiritual growth from spiritual performance?
What is spiritual? How to define spiritual performance, first of all? What is it? What do you mean by spiritual performance? Are you saying the people who go up on the stage and talk about spirituality? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I
When you
mean,
say
like in
spiritual
terms
performance?
of, yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people who are chasing performances and, and they do get a lot of fan following. And
That's marketing, isn't it? No, that's marketing. They're marketing a product. You see? Because if a person is truly spiritual, if there is wisdom, there's no need for marketing, because wisdom shines, yeah, and wisdom attracts on its own. The earlier masters, much before what you see around you now, nobody knew about them. They would be just, following their path, going to the Himalayas, sitting in a cave and getting into, a meditative state and so on and so forth. They wouldn't be bothered, because they have reached a point. What is wisdom? When you reach that point, when you realize that, you know, that speck of life, you know, that soul which comes from the super soul, that soul is in every living organism around you. Everybody is the same. So when there is, this kind of understanding, then why would they be bothered about marketing that, oh, I'm better than this one? Because they would know that nobody is better than anyone. At the end of the day, everyone is just the same. So that is marketing. The performance part is marketing. And the actual spirituality doesn't need any performance. You can see the person's evolution, and the person doesn't even, and a truly spiritual person wouldn't even be bothered about saying that, listen, I'm spiritual and I have evolved and I've reached this point, because he doesn't have to show it to anybody, prove it to anybody, because
I'm with you.
he's understood what the soul is, and he's made the connection of his soul to the super soul. There's nothing else left in the world to do.
I'm with you. So, Sunita ji, what beliefs have you had to let go in order to grow the knowledge that you have carried?
It's the only thing that I uh, had to do and learned very early to do, was to let go of attachments. Because that is where, even as a child, and because I was lucky enough to, grow within a family where everybody was into spirituality and reading scriptures and, all that kind of stuff. So I was, the books all around me, and my parents would talk like that. My grandparents would talk like that, and so with that kind of surrounding, it was easy for me to understand that attachment is something which pulls you down, which not only just binds you, it actually pulls you down. So that was something I learned very early, right in my childhood, to let go of attachment, like, the basic things. Like if I'm fond of a particular food and I realize that I have become so fond of this food that it is now becoming a craving, it has turned into a craving. The moment the realization would come, I would stop eating it. I would
I'm with you.
actually, yeah, consciously detach myself. So that has been an ongoing practice, and it is not something that happens once and then it's done with. No, it's a constant practice. You're detaching yourself all the time with everything. As I keep saying, I write a book. Obviously, I'm attached to a book, whatever I've written, and I see the success. There is a little bit of attachment. But then I move on to the next one because I consciously detached myself and I move on to my next book. So it's a conscious activity that I have, uh, I've been doing and I still do and will continue to do so.
Absolutely. And
That was only learning, and that was the only learning and the most important learning. That, because once you understand detachment, then you also understand the impermanence. Then you also understand that if you're losing a parent, then you know that whoever is born is going to die. So that detachment is a very powerful thing. Once you
is it leading to inner freedom? Is this detachment leading to inner freedom?
it's totally about inner freedom. Because if you're detached, then you're free, isn't it? Then your soul is free to soar up and to evolve to such limits that you don't even know till where you can reach.
Sridharji, why I've come into the spirituality, because you're connected to mythology. And whenever we talk about, in India specifically, we talk about Upanishads, we talk about Ramayana, we talk about Gita, and you've written a lot on these, mythologies. That's why for me to take these spiritual questions were inevitable from my side. But I have, we were talking that you wrote a book, for Mr.
Yeah.
Mahesh Bhatt.
Talking of this book.
What is the name of the book?
This is The Ashes Are Warm. The Ashes Are Warm.
The Ashes Are Warm. So you're the one who has written it, if I've understood it. And how do you relate with this kind of phenomena that you're writing a book for such a person who has been headlines for the industry for 1.5 billion people, and you were chosen to write for him? It is a phenomena. It is a phenomena in itself. So how do you relate with it? And what was your journey there?
See, it's been an interesting journey. When I was a publisher, I came across a book not written by, but it was a book about U.G. Krishnamurti and his interaction with various, followers. And there was a publisher who had that book they wanted to publish, but then internally they decided that U.G. Krishnamurti is a very, he's very blunt about spiritual masters, and he could say anything about anyone. So they were scared to publish that book, and they showed it to me. And I was a publisher then, and I said, I'll take it up. And when I read the book, I felt that what U.G. Krishnamurti was saying was resonating with me so much that I felt that it is, it's as though I'm talking through that book. And I felt that I should publish it. And since I was an independent publisher, I didn't have anybody to tell me what to publish, what not to publish. And as I told you, that rebel streak also in me. And I said, yes. And I published that book. Now, U.G. Krishnamurti was Mahesh Bhatt's guru. So that's how we connected. And I met Mahesh. And he was very happy that I was publishing U.G. Krishnamurti's books. And then eventually we met about 21 years ago. And then he gave me all U.G. Krishnamurti's books, and we became friends. And then we would be talking, and about UG and about spirituality and about very many things. And then this book happened recently because UG Krishnamurti passed away, and since then Mahesh was so close to him that it was difficult for him to obviously get over the fact that UG was no more in his life, and he was grappling with that. And so this book is essentially about Mahesh Bhatt's own journey, his own evolution from where he was, from where he started, and till what he is today. And with Mahesh, I had over these 2 decades, the relationship we had was that he could talk to me. He could talk to me freely. So he had his bunch of jottings, as he would call them, and because he used to journal. And he showed me and he said, tell me how they sound to you. And I said, there's a book in this. Because for me, making a book is very easy. And I find any interesting thing and I want to make a book out of it. So I said, there's a book in this. And he said, I don't want to do it. Can you do it? I said, yeah, sure. Then he started sending me stuff, he would write and send, and it all over WhatsApp. So, like in 85,000 words, ultimately. He would send, and I would just download them onto my laptop, and I started putting them together, created a chronological order, and created a memoir out of it. So, this is something which has come. It's very cathartic for him. He just went on and on and on. And I just kind of gave it a bit of direction, gave it shape, made it to a book. And this is something that he never spoke about even to his family. So when they read the book, they were quite surprised and very happy. And that made me happy to see that, how this book has turned out and how it has made his family also very happy. So, and again, the underlying thing, if you see, is spirituality. Our connection happened because of Mahesh's spiritual guru, Vijay Krishnamurti. So the spirit is everywhere. It's everywhere.
I'm with you.
And also because my understanding of this whole gamut of spirituality and Yuji and Mahesh himself is probably what made Mahesh trust me with, all this stuff about his life. Because that's a huge thing to trust a person, about your personal details. So that is how it happened. As I keep saying, it's a blessing. Who am I? I'm just a medium.
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. But it's been, it must be an honor to have such a humongous kind of an interaction with such a person. It's a happening guy who has, have had successes, failures, have missed, have made the points, have missed the points, with all his family in the industry, amazingly doing well. Pooja Bhatt, a fantastic actress. And of course, Alia is she's another level altogether. So all of these, he's created a generation of people who Indians at least look up to. And, so it must be a huge honor to just know this person, one to one.
Yes.
What a journey.
A huge honor, yes. Huge honor and very humbling, extremely humbling. Because I have no filmy background, I'm just any one person sitting here in Delhi, and he's a big shot. He's a big guy. He's a name. So for the kind of trust that he has in me, it's something that I still can't get over. It's something really huge. It is overwhelmingly huge to be trusted so much. With you, with one's small details of life, personal life, and relationships. So it's really beautiful. So I keep saying it's been a beautiful journey.
I can imagine. Sunita ji, you yourself is a very humble person, and you come across in every time you speak. And I don't know, you're a people connector. You're a people person. People like you. When they meet you, people will like you. This is how you are. And my very last question to you, Sunita ji, what is one illusion, most people spend their lives trapped in today, according to you?
Well, what I feel is that people seem to think that whatever they have is not enough. That's the biggest illusion, They always want more. They always feel that whatever I have is not enough. The car that I have is not enough. I should get a bigger, better one. The house I have is not enough. I should get another one. It's literally like that for everything. The money is never enough. So that is that, thing of not having enough, wanting more, is what is driving them crazy. And that's why there is so much of, you can say, not only just stress, look at the anger, look at the violence. Because ultimately what happens, people are boiling inside. And then everybody, they feel that they should have everything. What they see on social media, they should have it. Whatever the adverts are telling you, they should have it. Whatever the other person is having, they should have it. So can you imagine the kind of thirst that is driving them? They're forgetting the relationships. They're only thinking of, I don't have enough. I want more. And that's an illusion because it's a mirage. They're running after it. They would never actually ever have enough.
So, Sunita ji, my question with this is, what drives you, and what is the, you know, purpose of your life?
You see, as I've been saying right from the beginning, I don't have that feeling that I don't have enough. I keep saying I'm blessed. I'm forever in a state of gratitude that whatever I have is fantastic, and I'm grateful and I'm blessed. And this is something I really believe in very, very strongly. So for me, I do not get up in the morning and think that I want something. No, I just, I'm happy writing whatever I'm writing. And I have multiple projects in my head. And whatever new comes, I write in my diary, or I just, make a note from my laptop. And that's it. And my entire focus is because, you see, I've reached a point in life where it's not that my children are settled. So it's not that I have to look after them. They are looking after themselves. What do I have to do? I had my company. I shut down my company once my daughters went out because I didn't, need to run a company. I just wanted to fulfill the deep desire I have to, write, to communicate. I continue to doing that for the last about 12, 13 years. I'm totally focused since I shut down my company on just writing what I want to write about. And I would say I'm very lucky and extremely blessed that publishers ask me to write for them. I mean, there are very few authors who would say this, would be lucky enough to say that the publisher is asking me to write on a particular topic, So if I happen to be in demand, it's a good thing, which means that people are reading my books. People want to read more of me, and I'm there to write more. So I'm just constantly writing, and that gives me a lot of pleasure, a lot of happiness. That's all I want. There's nothing. I'm not running after getting X number of books published or getting an award here or, seeing my name somewhere there. No, that's not there. So
Right.
that is the driving force is the love of writing that I had. That is my driving force. There's nothing else.
Beautiful. I think, Sunita ji, you've said it all. It's the love for doing something which ultimately rewards you, your personal satisfaction. And I think that is the biggest crown you can wear, walking and talking, for you
And
being
also,
satisfied.
and also, the kind of work that I'm doing, the kind of writing that I'm doing is for people to understand something better, right? So, for instance, when I felt that I have cracked the Gita, I obviously wanted to write and share this with the others, you know? And I did it with the emotion of sharing. And I've touched so many hearts that it's become a bestseller. It's been reprinted 15 times. So, this is something which is the driving force in writing, that whatever I'm writing, it is, I'm communicating, I'm speaking through my writing. So, if I've learned something, and I'm learning every day, I'm learning all the time, I've never felt that, oh, I know enough. So, considering that I find something interesting to talk about, and I say that, oh my God, this is so interesting, I must tell the world about it, I write. And that book goes out and it helps people. I get the feedback, the publisher is happy, I'm happy, everybody's happy, and I'm writing another one, and I'm writing another one, and this is how the whole journey is happening. So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Great, Sunita ji. I just hope that this journey continues for you forever till the time you want it and till the time it makes you happy and you do whatever you love doing. So I'm so grateful for this time and it was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was
Thank you.
wonderful talking all
Thank
over
you.
again.
Thank you.